Hello students, welcome to your WebSeek.Academy English channel. Today, we will discuss the poem Do Not Ask of Me, My Love, which is part of the first PUC English syllabus. This powerful and emotional poem was written by Faiz Ahmed Faiz, one of the most celebrated Urdu poets of the 20th century. A note on the poet. Faiz Ahmed Faiz, 1911 to 1984, was born in Sialkot, Punjab. He was an intellectual, revolutionary poet and one of the most famous poets of Urdu language from Pakistan. His varied career as a teacher, army officer, journalist, political leader, trade unionist, and as a brilliant poet won him a wide audience. He was a notable member of the Progressive Writers Movement, PWM, a powerful cultural movement to shape the struggle against British imperialism in India. Faiz was a recipient of Lenin Peace Prize by the Soviet Union in 1962. He was, nevertheless, inspired by South Asia's Suri traditions. Do Not Ask of Me, My Love Summary. Faiz is said to have recited this poem in a mushaira, a poetic symposium. It depicts the struggle going on in Faiz's heart between love and patriotism. In this poem, he abjures the romantic love of the beloved for contemplation of the misery of the world. The poem is a landmark for it leads one Faiz to the consideration of the misery he saw around him related to the freedom struggle in his homeland. The poem can be read in two parts. The first part begins with a couplet or a two-line stanza and is followed by two longer stanzas. In this part, the poet addresses his beloved. He asks his beloved not to expect the kind of love that he had once shown her. In the next stanza, he narrates and describes the way he had viewed life. In that stage of his life, life looked very young and blooming because of his love for his beloved. Since his beloved was the source of his happiness in life, he could not withstand any kind of suffering afflicting his beloved. The poet says that the beauty of his beloved bestowed everlasting youth on the spring. He says that the eyes of his beloved were everything to him and everything else failed to please him then. Therefore, when he was in the company of his beloved, he had thought that the world was his. But, in the second half of the stanza, the poet confesses that such an idea was an illusion born out of his imagination. Now, he has come to realize that there are other agonies of the world besides the agony of love, and there are other kinds of solace in addition to the solace of love. In the second part, he elucidates the agonies and other kinds of solace in addition to the solace of love that demand his attention. The second part begins with the same couplet asking his beloved not to expect the same kind of love that he had for her once. In the next, longer, stanza he lists those agonies that demand his attention. They are savagery, woven in silk and sateen and gold lace, which are dark curses of countless ages, and human bodies sold in street and marketplace besmeared in blood. They also demand his attention. He says that even though her beauty compels his attention, there are other kinds of bliss besides the bliss of her beauty. He concludes the second part again with the same couplet asking his beloved not to demand the same kind of attention that once he had for his beloved. In this poem, the word beloved can be interpreted as his muse, his country, or his concept of beauty or social change. This poem is said to be Faiz's first experiment with blending the love for the beloved into love for humanity, of turning the pain of separation into pain for all those who suffered under the dark bestial spells of uncounted centuries. In the second stanza, he is obviously referring to slavery, slave trade and prostitution. Do Not Ask of Me, My Love Comprehension 1. 1. When does the speaker realize what he thought about love was not true? Or, when does the speaker's idea of love undergo a change? In Do Not Ask of Me, My Love? Answer. when he experiences other sorrows and pleasures in the world than what love offered him. 2. That's the way I imagined it to be, suggests A. That the speaker's concept of love is naive. B. The speaker's realization of realities. C. The speaker's view of love was just a wishful thinking. Answer B. The speaker's realization of realities. 3. For there are other sorrows in the world than love. Here, sorrows refers to miseries. A. Generated by love. B. Caused by poverty and deprivation. C. Caused by jealousy and envy. Answer B. Caused by poverty and deprivation. 4. You are beautiful still, my love. Here the speaker is expressing his A. Fidelity to his love. B. Inability to pay the same undivided attention to his love. C. Preoccupations with other issues in life than his love. Answer B. Inability to pay the same undivided attention to his love. Please note that A and C are also not wrong. Do not ask of me, my love comprehension too. 1. What does the line, those dark and brutal curses of countless centuries suggest? Answer. Faiz Ahmed was a Marxist and believed in the idea of an egalitarian society. When he writes, those dark and brutal curses of countless centuries, he probably means the suffering caused by stark poverty, which seems to be a brutal curse on the hapless poor. The phrase, countless centuries, suggests that the poor have no escape from this state of want. At another level, the phrase can be taken as having political allusions. It highlights the betrayal of the founding of Pakistan. It is to be read as addressed to the nation of Pakistan, which Faiz had embraced with much hope, and with whose political leaders he became disillusioned. The persecution of minorities, martial laws, public floggings and public executions changed the nature of the creation of Pakistan as a nation. The vulnerable were no longer safe in the land created to protect them. 2. What harsh realities of life have drawn the speaker's attention much more than the beauty of his beloved? Or, how is the speaker in the poem, Do Not Ask of Me, My Love, affected by the harsh realities of mankind? Or, what realities of life are experienced in the poem, Do Not Ask of Me, My Love? Answer. The beauty of his beloved cannot keep him riveted to it as other harsher realities of life trouble him. Pitted against his beloved's beautiful face, he sees bodies bathed in blood, smeared with dust, and sold from marketplace to marketplace. He can also see bodies which are afflicted by a number of diseases and bodies from which pus oozes out. That is why, though his beloved's face is still beautiful, he cannot give his undivided attention to the beauty of the face alone. 3. What transformation in the perception of love do you see in the poem? Or, what change in the poet's attitude towards his beloved do you notice in the poem? Or, in the poem, the poet's perception of love changes with time. What reasons does he give for this change? Or, how does the responsibility of the speaker as a human being change his perception of love in Do Not Ask of Me, My Love? Answer. We see that Faiz Ahmed moves from the personal to the political, from the particular to the general in his concept of love in the poem, Do Not Ask of Me, My Love. If the poet was confined to the world of romantic love in the past, he now moves out of it to enter the world of love where he can extend his love to his fellow brethren. It is not that he loves his beloved less, but that he knows that the emotion of love is all-encompassing and it need not remain limited to one individual. In the past, if one individual happened to be his world, now he sees that the world is much more than just an individual. Earlier, if he thought there was no greater joy or sorrow than the ones resulting from his love for the beloved, he now knows that the world has greater promises and greater trials too. Thus, The speaker accepts the truth that in the past he wove around himself an illusory web of love, but now he knows that such a world was far from being real. Thus we see that the poet rises from the material to the ideal in his concept and avowal of love. Do not ask of me, my love. Comprehension 3. 1. At the end of the poem we feel the speaker does not love his beloved less, but the suffering humanity more. Do you agree? Or, suffering of humanity is much greater than the love for his beloved. Explain with reference to the poem. Or, the perception of love changes when one realizes one's responsibilities. How is this idea brought out in the poem, Do Not Ask of Me, My Love? Answer, yes, certainly. The very fact that he addresses the poem to his beloved makes it clear that he wants to lay bare before his innermost feelings. Perhaps he has the courage to do so because he knows that his beloved would understand his feelings. If he has to have that confidence in his beloved, then the love between them must be real. It is as if the speaker seeks the approval of his beloved in taking up work that would make him serve the less fortunate in society. There is a note of pleading when he says, but I'm helpless too. It is as if he is saying that unless she understands him and cooperates with him, he will not be able to continue on his path of fighting for the cause of the less fortunate. So, in a way, the poem can be taken as an indirect plea of the poet to the beloved to let him go so that he can take up the national and political cause. So, though at one point of time the poet says that his earlier love seemed to be an illusion, it is clear that he still has a love for the beloved, but is impelled to answer the call of the suffering humanity. It isn't that he scorns love, but that he understands that it can't exist in isolation from the world. The phrase, comforts other than love, suggests the joys of political struggle and comradeship, which are a different and wider form of love. In the repetition of, my love, in the final line, Faiz nevertheless re-emphasizes how difficult it is to leave behind his former bliss. This is a poem about the heavy burden of taking on responsibility, and the inner struggle that it entails. 2. Many critics have pointed out in this poem, the beloved means not just a lover, but country and nationalism. With this observation, does the poem read differently? Answer. The word ghazal comes from Arabic and has been translated as to talk with women or to talk of women. Much of Faiz Ahmed's poetry follows the conventions of ghazal, the classical form of traditional Urdu poetry, which had been influenced by Persian literature. But Faiz's work revolutionizes the conventions, extending the meanings of many traditional terms. For instance, though Faiz often addresses poems to his beloved, a central word in the ghazal vocabulary in his hands, it refers to both a person and also to the people as a whole, and even to revolutions. He sees the individual as existing within a wider context. The poem, Do Not Ask of Me, My Love, is not written in a strict ghazal form, although the phrase, my love, for the beloved is repeatedly used. On the one hand, if the poem can be viewed as a rejection of romantic love, on the other, it is possible to take the beloved as the country or nationalism. It can be argued that Ahmed's initial love for the country underwent disillusionment as the country was guilty of persecuting the innocent. This persecution was the outcome of narrow nationalism. Political leaders who did not have a wider worldview upheld narrow nationalism, which was opposed by Faiz Ahmed. He upheld universal brotherhood and was of the opinion that even as a citizen is proud of belonging to his own nation, he should be equally conscious of the fact that he is the citizen of the world. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to WebSeek.Academy for more English lessons and notes. See you in the next video. Until then, learn more and achieve more.